So let's look at what the growth budget is forecast to achieve at the moment. This is real GDP per capita forecast at the moment. And as you can see, pretty anemic growth for the foreseeable future. 191 New Zealanders are leaving every day to Australia. If this is the best that we can do off the back of a growth budget, why should they stay?
Because, Jack, these numbers tell you things are going to feel and be a lot better than they have in the past few years.
These numbers?
Yes, because, Jack, by contrast, we've been in negative numbers and we have had sky-high inflation. And so what this represents is a much brighter trajectory into the future. And do I want those numbers to go higher? Do I want to have policies
to go higher.
in subsequent budgets?
1.7, 1.4, that's it?
Yes, but you have to look at this in the context in which we've been, in which we have had negative per capita GDP position, highly negative. So the reason people have felt like they're going backwards is that in many cases they have been. So to be coming out of that...
GDP relative to being in a recession.
Right. So to be coming out of that and into healthy levels of per capita growth into the future, that's...
I mean, like, I'm not an expert in this, right? We should probably ask Craig about this. But if it's GDP growth, GDP is basically everything added in together. All of the wealth generated by every company, everything. And if it's 1.8%, surely that means my net increase would be 1.8% on average. Like, on average, that's what it's going to mean. And if that's the case, she's now sitting there saying everyone's going to notice a difference. Really? Of a 1.8% increase? So
33 cents raise in minimum wage. We're all going to notice that. 33 cents. Less than the cost of inflation. Almost like it'll feel like we're going backwards.
I say this like, you know, people sometimes just know enough to get them into trouble, and maybe that's me in the economy, but not enough to understand it fully. But if that's what it is no one's going to notice 1.8%. So either she's being disingenuous and she's not being honest, or this is typical growth for a country, and this is to be expected. Like, I should do the research. What is an average? Like, what's Australian growth in those 4-year periods? Maybe we could look that up while we're listening to the last 30 seconds of this.
It's going to feel remarkably different. That's going to feel like things get better this year, even better next year, and stay good into the years ahead.
and then don't get quite as good in the years afterwards, according to those Treasury forecasts that we just showed you.
We've got a few budgets between now and then, Jack.
So we compared the growth forecast with those in Australia. So today...
What, by a few, hopefully you mean one, is that right? Well, just out of interest, Australian annual growth 3.4%. Just so three times the amount.
Okay.
Just looking at, I just Google. All I've googled is Australian GDP growth, and it says 3.4% annual change. That was 2023 though. Like, there you go. So we know. New
Zealanders are about $25,000 per capita behind Australia in terms of GDP output. With your growth budget, comparing it to Australia's forecasts, 5 years from now, we're set to be $25,000 behind Australia. So you can call it a growth budget all you like, but on your forecasts, this isn't meaningfully going to close the gap.
I think I get the point of your question, which is you're saying...
I have to say, she was so patronising so many times in this interview. You're asking the right question, Jack. This was one of those moments. I think I understand your question. Now how can I spin the answer?
Isn't meaningfully going to close the gap.
I think I get the point of your question, which is you're saying, should we be
the point of the question is, what's the growth you're talking about? That's the point of the question.
doing more to grow our economy? And my answer to that would be yes.
How can you call it a growth budget when it doesn't close the gap with Australia?
Because
to whom we're losing 191 New Zealanders a day.
Because in the absence of the policy choices we've made, you would be seeing less growth in these forecasts. If we took the approach some of my political opponents are promoting, which
blame Labor,
is to slap more taxes on this economy, more heavy borrowing, that would threaten growth. And what I've been absolutely emphasising for New Zealanders, this is an economic recovery we're forecasting. Do not take it for granted. Alternative policy choices would put it at risk.
So let's...
Chewie, happy to hear your thoughts, sir, if you have any.
I mean, this whole segment it really speaks for the whole of the interview, really. Our finance minister, the person that is setting this budget, is so woefully the wrong person to have anything to do with their finances.
Yeah.
Like, she's got all the catchphrases. It's all perfectly well rehearsed, but it's ideological and it's not based in fact. It also, when she compares what has been done, what Labour's done, it is never mentioned in the context of the economy that they were operating in.
Yeah.
That it was the pandemic and fucking everything went out the window. But then when she gets criticised on how she's operating, well, you know, I'm operating in the economy that is part of the world and I can't do anything about it. Like, she doesn't give Labour that grace. She expects it weirdly in return. It's bizarre. But for her to say that we will notice things getting better when minimum wage is going up less than inflation, when the banks and the supermarkets and the landlords are still generating truly gross, and I mean that in both sense of the word, gross profits, offensive levels of profits, while our wages are being suppressed by this government. They want us scared. They want the labour market flooded, not enough jobs to go round, because that's great. Nobody wants to rock the boat. She correctly, somehow, identifies that a big problem with the New Zealand economy is productivity. Has she done anything to encourage further productivity short of welcoming foreign investors? No. Domestic productivity is tied up in housing because it's a tax black hole. Everybody can see the obvious thing, that if you've got money and you want to make that into a bigger number, you buy houses, and buy and sell houses. That's how we do it. We're not investing in local businesses, ideas. We're not growing our own stuff. We don't know how to get out of this tailspin we've created. So let's just make it really permissive for wealthy people to come in. The stuff that she is promoting as growing productivity is untested, and Treasury's best figures is that it might do 0.6% to our economy. She's spending hundreds of billions of dollars to get there. It is unhinged.